In Venezuela, President Nicolas Maduro condemned the political violence seeking to disrupt peace and security in the country. In Russia, President Vladimir Putin took part in the International Security Conference, stating that a new multipolar world is emerging. And in Sudan, the deadly conflict between the army and the rapid support forces entered its fourth month. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In Venezuela, President Nicolas Maduro condemned the political violence seeking to disrupt peace and security in the country. Maduro condemned the attacks of Western media, which want to establish fascism in the country by means of lies, manipulation, and violence.
The big media wants to disrupt the social and economic life of Venezuela. They want to disrupt the political life of Venezuela. They want to spread fascism in Venezuela through hatred, lies, and violence. They want to spread fascism in Venezuela through lies, hatred, and violence. A poisonous, perverse, Machiavellian cocktail. They want to do it, but we will not allow them to do it.
The Venezuelan head of state also assured that the United States is not a safe country for investments and demanded the immediate return of the national oil company Citgo, together with the $4 billion of debt for the years of seizure.
What is being carried out against Citgo, against Venezuela, is simple, something that can be done to any country in the world at any time. The United States is not a safe country to make investment, to buy companies, to have economic activity. But the United States gave Citgo to the extremist right-wing opposition, and they all applauded, and they are simply stealing a company that costs more than $12 billion and that belongs to Venezuelans. This company gives at least $1 billion of net annual profits. This company has $4 billion from these years of kidnapping.
In Colombia, citizens and the government prepare for the upcoming regional elections. On October 29th, Colombians will go to the polls to elect new provincial and municipal authorities. This election day is of utmost importance for Petro's government, since it will assess the influence of a series of reforms undertaken since his arrival to power. Several social and religious movements will take part in the process of providing information. In Peru, the Association of Relatives of the Dead and Injured in the Ayacucho region has called for a speedy investigation to the 49 deaths registered during protests in this and other regions. In this regard, the Vice President of the organization, Giovanna Mendoza, denied a recent statement by Attorney General Patricia Benavides, who was rejected during a visit to Ayacucho by demonstrators who accused her of being an accomplice in the massacre. She also added that the organization has presented clear evidence of how at least 10 civilians were killed in Ayacucho during the protests against the appointment of President Dina Boluarte. Human rights groups also demanded justice in the investigation opened against President Boluarte and several of her ministers and former ministers. In Brazil's capital, women from all over the country hold the 7th Margarita March to demand that the government restores all the laws and policies for small farmers that were eradicated after the 2016 coup against Dilma Rousseff. Our correspondent Brian Meir with details.
Pouring in from all 26 Brazilian states, women small farmers and renewable rainforest product harvesters are arriving at Brasilia's City Park, where they're camping out in preparation for the August 15th Margarita March.
All women's struggles are important, and the March of the Margaritas, with its focus on women from the rivers and the forests, shows the importance of the struggle of women from the countryside, which is part of the collective struggle of women who are fighting for our rights every day.
This year marks the 7th Margarita March, which was founded by the National Rural Workers Union, CONTAG, in 2000. And the first one since the U.S.-supported coup against Dilma Rousseff in 2015. With an estimated crowd of 100,000, it promises to be one of the largest women's marches in Brazil's history.
We were raised by these palm trees. They are like our mother, but they are not a free mother. They are a privatized mother. So we who live off of bamboos and coconuts don't have access to free territory where we can work and raise our children.
On August 15th, the women are marching on Brazil's Congress to demand that the government restores all the laws and policies for small farmers that were eradicated after the 2016 coup, and more programs for the Bem Viver, or Good Living movement.
Margaritas have come here to make the biggest women's march in the history of our nation. They have come from every corner of the country to say we are determined.
Brian Mir, teleSUR, Brasilia.
Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador, during his morning conference, said he will hold talks with his U.S. counterpart Joe Biden on Latin America.
We are going to have a meeting with President Biden in November. That will be during a meeting of Pacific and Asian countries. And he invited me. And we're going to have a bilateral meeting.
The Mexican head of state also pointed out that the International Monetary Fund is partly responsible for Argentina's debt, which exceeded the country's ability to pay during Mauricio Macri's government.
In the case of Argentina, they have been greatly affected by the economic crisis. Because the right-wing conservative government of Macri completely indebted the country with the complicity of the International Monetary Fund. Because they gave him money when Argentina's ability to pay was exceeded, and because they gave him more than the bill, because the elections were in the middle, and they wanted the right-wing conservative Macri to continue as president. However, Macri did not win. Alberto Fernandez won, and a huge debt remained, and the International Monetary Fund turned its back on them when they were jointly responsible for it.
Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. Other stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back from the South. On Tuesday at the International Security Conference, Russian President Vladimir Putin stated that a new multipolar world is emerging. At the 11th International Security Congress, Russia's head of state said that this reality was a key basis for the consolidation of stable and progressive world development, with countries ready to defend their sovereignty and national interests. Vladimir Putin stressed that the governments of some nations create and promote conflicts, divide brotherly countries, and seek to maintain neo-colonial and domination systems in order to exploit the resources of sovereign nations.
Today, it is obvious that it is possible to reduce confrontation at the global and regional level, neutralize challenges and risks, strengthen trust between states, and open up broad opportunities for their development only by joining the efforts of the world community. We have been and remain firm supporters of a multipolar world order based on the priority of the norms and principles of international law, the sovereignty and equality of states, constructive cooperation and trust.
During the international security event, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov accused the United States of undermining the nuclear non-proliferation treaty by its support to Ukrainian forces.
A number of key arms control and non-proliferation agreements have been derailed by the United States. They are now ready, there are even such fears, to encroach on one of the cornerstone elements of the global security architecture, the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons.
Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu said that the Ukrainian regime does not achieve results in the conflict with Russia, despite the comprehensive assistance of the United States and NATO.
Despite the comprehensive assistance of the West, the armed forces of Ukraine failed to achieve results. An example of this is the publicized strategic counteroffensive. The skillful actions of the personnel of the Russian armed forces, their coherence, and the high level of training make it possible to respond flexibly to the implementation by Kyiv of the plans of Western curators. Preliminary results of combat actions show that Ukraine's military resources are almost exhausted.
Belarusian Defense Minister Viktor Krenin accused the West of investing heavily to prepare the ground for a possible direct confrontation with NATO.
In the West, intensive military preparations are underway. A lot of money is being invested in this. It must be understood that in the capitalist world, no one will freeze their assets in weapons and a bloated army without a reason. Therefore, the conclusion can be drawn unequivocally. The possibility of a direct military clash with NATO in the future becomes quite obvious.
On Tuesday, Syrian Defense Minister Ali Mahmoud Abbas accused the United States and Western countries of provoking conflicts and supporting terrorist organizations to destroy Middle Eastern countries.
In the name of colorful revolutions, creative chaos, and others, many countries have suffered from the evils of the colonial West as America and those allies with it have worked to provoke conflicts and support terrorist organizations to destroy countries such as Iraq, Libya, Lebanon, and my country, Syria, which still suffers from the aggressions of those countries and terrorism for more than 12 years. After the success of our armed forces, with the help of friends led by the Russian Federation in defeating the aggression and eliminating a large part of the terrorism, these countries resorted to waging an economic war and a deadly siege against the Syrian people and to preventing the people from access to all means of development.
The Syrian Defense Minister added that U.S. and Western hostile policies remain the main threat to security and stability in the Middle East region. Abbas also called on the international community to stop turning a blind eye to the massacres committed against the Palestinian people.
The Zionist entity, with its aggressive practices, its expansionist policy in support of terrorism, and the hostile American and Western policies, continues to be the most predominant factor threatening the security and stability of the Middle Eastern region. If we want to be at least reasonably fair, the international community must today put an end to the practices of this entity, stop turning a blind eye to the massacres committed by its authorities inside Palestine, its continued policy of land grabbing, expansion, building settlements, as well as attacking sanctities and violating the freedom and humanity of the Palestinian people. This entity must be held accountable for the ongoing attack it continues to launch, especially on Syrian territory, which would undermine any real effort to establish security and stability.
Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu met on Tuesday with his Chinese counterpart Li Shangfu on the sidelines of a security forum near Moscow. Shoigu expressed his hope that the meeting will deepen the ties between the two countries' militaries and improve global and regional security. According to Russian government sources, representatives from about 100 countries and 8 international organizations were invited to the Moscow Conference on International Security. The attendance of the Chinese defense minister further underscores the drive by China and Russia to align their foreign policies in a bid to counteract the Western-led unipolar world order. In the meeting, the Chinese defense minister reiterated on Tuesday Beijing's position on Taiwan and said reunification is a historical trend.
The Taiwan issue is China's internal affairs that allows no external interference. China's reunification is a historical trend. Playing with fire and attempting to control China with Taiwan will inevitably end in failure.
Shang Fu also called for unity to resist the global military hegemony.
For the sake of a fairer world, we need to unite to resist the power politics of acting willfully. For the sake of a safer world, we need to stand by each other and help each other to resist the global military hegemony. For the sake of a more inclusive world, we need to work together to resist any means of containment.
On Tuesday, about 2,000 soldiers, 200 military vehicles, and almost 100 aircraft took part in Poland's first military parade since 2019 to mark the Polish Army Day in Warsaw. The parade was organized during the slogan Strong White and Red, and is the culminating event of the celebrations. Poland said in January that it plans to increase defense spending to 4% of its gross domestic product this year, the highest level in NATO. According to NATO estimates, in 2022, the alliance spent 2.57% of its combined GDP on defense. The biggest spenders were Greece and the US, with Poland third on 2.42%. According to the Global Firepower ranking, the Polish army is ranked 20th among 145 classified armies from around the world, and in terms of military power, Poland is ahead of Germany, Spain, and Canada. The Russian Defense Ministry said on Tuesday that it had launched overnight airstrikes on key military targets in Ukraine.
Russian armed forces launched a group strike with sea and air-based long-range precision weapons on key enterprises of the Kiev regime's military industry. The aim of the strike was reached. All assigned objects were hit. The military-industrial complex of Ukraine suffered significant damage.
We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at teleSUR English, where there you'll be able to rewatch our interviews, top stories, special broadcastings, and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. The final short break, don't go away.
It is our duty to reverse the damage we cause to the planet. Let's recover our natural ecosystems with actions in defense of the environment. Let's keep fighting for a greener world.
Welcome back from the south. This Tuesday, at least 13 banks in Russia start testing real transactions with the digital ruble. The experiment tests a number of basic digital ruble transactions, such as opening and reloading e-wallets, citizen-to-citizen transfers, and payments for goods and services. Thus, during the first phase, the average number of participants in the project will be 600 individuals, 30 trade and service companies from 11 cities. With the introduction of the digital ruble, Russia will have 3 new payments instruments: cash, digital, and the national cryptocurrency. Among the advantages of the new payment method are its security and the absence of commission fees for transactions. On Tuesday, the struggle in Sudan entered its 4th month and thousands of people have died. Since Sudan's conflict erupted on April 15, the country has been plunged into a dire humanitarian crisis. In a joint appeal, the heads of 20 global organizations point out that more than 6 million Sudanese people are one step away from famine and that the situation is spiraling out of control. In addition, they added that more than 14 million children need humanitarian aid and over 4 million people have fled fighting, either within war-ravaged country or as refugees to neighboring states. Meanwhile, the country has seen increasing risk of large-scale outbreaks of infectious diseases such as malaria, dengue fever, and cholera. The northeastern region of Syria has seen a notable increase in the military activities of Washington and its Daesh mercenaries and Kurdish separatist militias, an escalation of war which, according to Syrians, warn could lead to an unprecedented war between Damascus and its allies on the one hand and Washington and its agents on the other. Let's see the following report on the subject from our Damascus correspondent Hisham Wanus.
Syrians warn that the invading troops of Washington plan to control the entire Syrian-Iraqi borderline and block the path of contact between the two neighboring nations and the resistance bloc ally Iran. Warnings based on local and regional media reports of the mobilization of military reinforcements to the illegal U.S. military base of Al-Tanf on Syrian soil from the Ain al-Assad enclave in Iraqi territory and the deployment of additional naval forces in the Red Sea and the Gulf area.
The United States war move in the area seeks to cut this line of contact that benefits both neighboring countries, both economically and socially, as well as in the military and security fields, that consolidates and strengthens the entire axis of resistance. Also, what the United States seeks is to create a state of shock with the Russian forces deployed in Syria to extort Russia and pressure Moscow to enter into an agreement that preserves Washington's interest in these and other areas of the world in the shadow of the Ukrainian conflict that is still underway.
Local sources affirm the deployment of more than 2,500 armed agents of Washington in the area between the Al-Tanf base in the southeast of Syria and the city of Bukamal in the province of Deir ez-Zor in the northeast of the country. At the same time, the Russian Center for Reconciliation in Syria records continuous violations by the U.S. fighter jets of the Russian-U.S. protocol for preventing clashes in the Syrian sky.
Joint Syrian-Russian military exercises and Russian long-range missile strikes against Daesh terrorist strongholds in the area, as well as the Syrian Arab Army's war action against extremists who recently attacked a Syrian military base in the northeastern province of Deir ez-Zor, all indicate that Syria and its allies are ready to face any U.S. military escalation, even if neither side is interested in a full-scale war that could involve regional and international forces.
While joint Syrian-Russian military exercises were announced in the northeastern region of the country, troops and military reinforcements of both allied nations were mobilized in this Syrian region, where attacks by Daesh terrorists have also increased on orders from Washington, according to Damascus and Moscow. Additionally, according to Syrians, an intense movement of troops and combat equipment foretells a possible large-scale war in the northeastern region of their country.
teleSUR Damascus, Syria.
We have come to the end of this news briefing, and you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. Also join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For teleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.